Okay, we are recording, so. Same slides as the last few months. Just keep yourself muted. We're recording. You can keep your cameras on or off. There's only a few of us, so you really don't have to raise your hand when we get to the Q&A if you have a question. And then you don't need to sign in via Google form because there's only a few of us. So, yeah, we're going to reintroduce ourselves because I think there's a new parent here. So
I'm Amy, or Miss Amy. This is my first year at Stottlemyre, but I have been a social worker for roughly 6 years. Before Stottlemyre, I was at University of Michigan Hospital, Children's Hospital, and then multiple agencies within Wayne County. And the best part about being part of this group is I also now have a 1.5-year-old little one. So I am always trying the things that we are teaching before and after we have our little group.
All right, and my name is April Henley. I also go by Miss April here with the parents and the kiddos. I've been at Stottlemyre since 2012. I worked with Head Start, which is our general ed preschool, and then I moved over to our ECS program and the ECP 3 to 5 special ed preschool. And then my previous experience, I've worked in domestic violence shelters, I worked with foster care, and then I was a children's outpatient therapist from age 4 to age 18 for a number of years. So, and my two kiddos are in high school. I have a senior and a 9th grader. So I have tried all of these things that we've talked about that we're going to be talking about, and I still do them just adjusted for older kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start with a video. It's a little message from a self-control expert. It's about
self-proclaimed
self-control expert. It's about 5 minutes long, but it's something that you can watch with your kiddos, but I think it's just a great example of what self-control and self-regulation is.
We just saw the chats.
Yep.
So we're trying to figure out the technical difficulties.
Yep. All right, let's see here. Thanks for chatting. Let's try this again. Is this better? Hmm. Of course, it's never easy, is it?
about in settings on
In here.
the, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear that if it's like that?
You just make them watch it.
Yeah. It looks like we are going to have to just encourage you to look it up on YouTube and watch it.
Basically, it's a fantastic video. Basically, it's teaching Cookie Monster, which, you know, I think we all could probably call our children Cookie Monsters, teaching them different strategies to help with self-regulation and self-control. But definitely feel free to watch it on your own and with your kids because it's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
So self-regulation and self-control, what is it? So it's the ability to understand and manage our behavior and reactions to feelings and things happening around you. So they can be like calming down when you're super upset or very excited, or making yourself focus even if you're not really into the task. Having to refocus if you're given a new task. Learn like how to get along with others and do that behavior, even if it's not your natural behavior. And then one that I think all of us adults can very much relate to is control the impulses. I mean, if I just need to speak for myself, speaking of cookies, I have a very difficult time stopping at one homemade chocolate chip cookie. I also sometimes have a difficult time after a long day stopping at one glass of wine. So this is something that our kids are starting to learn, but this is a cool one because we are also, as adults, constantly trying to work on this. So it's like you're able to do it together as a family. So it's important for so many ways. And I think as adults, we know why self-control is important and maybe why we wish we learned it more when we were younger, paid attention to it. So it helps for learning. It helps for classroom behavior. In school, they're going to have to sit and listen to a teacher. And that's the last thing that they're going to want to do. They're going to want to play and talk with their friends. But it's something that's part of academics, is sitting and listening. So it helps teach them really good behaviors to help in the classroom. It also helps teach them how to control impulsive behavior and strong emotions, because coming from social workers, we feel all emotions are good emotions, but we also feel there's a time and a place for certain emotions. So learning that, okay, I'm allowed to have my emotion, but right now is not the appropriate time. And then being able to talk about it again, which is a lifelong lesson that all of us, you know,
Absolutely
have to work on. It helps us with social skills too. It's small things like taking turns and sharing, expressing emotions appropriately. Like if I'm mad, I don't bite someone or I don't yell at them. You know, I try to use my words and my indoor voice when expressing being upset. It teaches them independence as well, because they're able to kind of self-regulate and it helps them kind of self-entertain, which also then will help them again with schoolwork because they'll know, like, here's the expectation. I really want to go play. I'm going to go play outside once I get X, Y, and Z done. And after a while, especially when they start getting older, they don't need as much guidance from you parents. And then it definitely helps us manage our stress, even though sometimes it feels like we're just suppressing those feelings. Again, as adults, we can recognize this a little bit more. Feels like if we don't let our emotions out, that we're suppressing it. But for myself, sometimes I want to react right away and then I stop myself. So I'm like, okay, this isn't appropriate. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, well, actually, I'm glad I didn't react because that's not how I feel right now. And so that's, again, another lifelong lesson that we're starting to teach at a very young age.
All right. So how do we teach our kids self-regulation skills? It actually seems a little bit more difficult than it really is. The number one thing is to model it. So show them how to do a frustrating task without getting angry. Show them all of those different emotions and verbalize it. Say, oh, that was so difficult. I am so glad that I didn't get mad. I'm so glad that I stayed calm. Like, verbalize those feelings for them. So what they see you do, they will model it eventually.
And it's also good with that type situation with expressing it before you even do it. Like, oh, mommy does not want to fold the laundry, but I'm going to fold the laundry and then let's go play outside. And so that way they're starting to be able to put the pieces together of like, okay, task first, play second.
Right.
And you're walking them through it without having to force them through it. They're just learning from you, which is the best learning.
Yes. Lots of praise, but specifically tell them what you saw when they use self-control. Like, you shared your toy with Joey, even though you didn't want to. Good job. Thank you. So Zoe pushed you. I'm going to use Zoe's name. Zoe pushed you. So good job not getting upset. Good job using your words to tell her that you were sad. Those type of examples of praise. Yes, you can.
So I actually used this morning. I was very taken aback by it. My daughter, she's in that temper tantrum age. So she was upset that her one sock got taken off by herself. She took her own sock off and then she became very upset about it. And so normally she lets out a cry and then there's this long pause and we call it like the pause before the big one. And then she lets out a big scream. And so to my partner, I was like, oh, because I was in the other room, like, oh, here comes the big one. And actually she let out a cry and then she just sat on the ground and because then I didn't hear anything, came around. She took a deep breath and looked at her foot and looked at her sock. And then to my partner, held up her sock and said, thank you, like, please help me. And that was huge self-regulation.
Very big, yes.
And I wasn't expecting it. So I was like, oh my gosh, great job. I'm so proud of you. I know you wanted to get frustrated, but you didn't. So it can catch you off guard. And it's okay if like you think about it later and then praise them later. That's perfectly fine too.
Absolutely.
But just always try to praise, even if you're like, well, they should be doing this by now. Praise is always the best way to keep a good behavior going.
What a great example.
It was really great this morning.
That was a great example. Yeah. Okay. Teach them. So help them find appropriate ways to react to strong emotions. When you see that they're getting angry, say, do we need to take a break? A break is not a timeout. A timeout is a consequence for misbehavior. A break is, when we get tired and stressed as adults, we're like, I just need to sit and I need to do something that's not work. Doesn't mean, I don't have to think about. I like to read books that I have read millions of times before because I don't have to think about them. And that's one of my coping skills when I get stressed. So teach them those appropriate ways to deal with their strong emotions. Teach them to get adult help when they need to. You can teach them various ways to say help. Even the little ones, as in Amy's daughter, can say thank you and hold something up, and that's her way of asking for help. So you can teach them the sign for help or something approximate. This is the sign for help, just an open fist on your hand, and you just raise it up a little bit. But if you get a kiddo that this is their sign for help, then that works too. Just any way that you can teach them that it's okay to take a break or to get help when they need to. Also, provide support. So again, it's all about emotions. Talk about them. Help them give the names to those feelings. Teach them what happy is. We'll go over ways to do that. Teach them what sad is. Teach them what I encourage the use of the word mad instead of angry, because angry is a big emotion and you can be mad without being angry. There's there's a definite difference. Mad is just you're frustrated, you're mad. Anger is what goes along usually with a tantrum. Yeah.
And it's never too early to start about talking about emotions with your children, even if your child's nonverbal or you have a super young child. My daughter was extremely colicky. And so since like 2 weeks old, when she would be upset, I would always say to her, like, I see you're really frustrated right now. I'm so sorry you're frustrated. And then after giving her, I'm glad you feel better. You must have been hungry and that made you frustrated. So I've been talking emotions with her since way before she even knew what was going on. But the earlier you can do it, the more comfortable they are with it. And the more that they're going to be able to start recognizing, like, oh, okay, this is a different feeling than I was feeling before. And it's fun to start to watch them experience that.
Right. Oh, sorry. Need to go back. There we go. And be patient. That's the big one. So you need to match your expectations with your child's age and with their stage of development. So my daughter, for example, is speech delayed and cognitively impaired. So she reads at a first grade level. And so her cognitive thinking is younger than her age of 18. She's currently a senior. So I don't use, when we're talking about feelings, I don't use big words that she can't read. I keep my sentences very short because for those big emotions, when she's angry, when she's frustrated, it's easier for her to talk about that stuff than really talking a whole paragraph or sitting down for hours and talking about it. So just short and simple, but that's her stage of development. Even though she's 18, she thinks a little bit younger. So just be patient as they learn. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Understand that especially our kiddos that are the birth to 5 age, they're going to, how do I want to say this? You might get one day that they actually do really well at managing their emotions. And then you get another day that it doesn't seem like anything that you taught them has sunk in. Anything that you've assisted with, they don't want your support. They don't want your comfort, and you won't know what to do. So just be patient because it is a phase and it will pass.
And with a big thing with managing your expectations is with our birth to 5, expecting them to know how to label their feelings is really hard. That's what we're trying to teach them. So for a while, until they start expressing those words, for a while saying, you appear angry, or you appear sad, or thank you for remaining calm, even though you seem to have been angry or mad. So you start labeling that. So then they're able to kind of be like, okay, this is what I was feeling. And then mom is saying this mad word. You are teaching them how to be able to label their own emotions.
Okay. So the following is just a short list of problems that can affect self-regulation or self-control. And these are all completely normal. So we know how we feel when we're sick. Sometimes we don't want to do anything. You know that when we're tired, sometimes we're crabbier. Any changes to routine can throw our kiddos off. Sensory issues, and I put just sensory issues, but that can be anything from their clothes don't feel right, or it's too loud, or it's too bright, or it's not bright enough, or it's too hot, or they're too cold. So any type of external sensory issues with our kids can affect their self-regulation skills. And then even the place. Some of our kiddos, they're really great at school. They have no problems with keeping themselves together and managing their emotions at school. And then when they get home, it's where they're comfortable and they feel their mom is safe, and moms usually always get the brunt of the behavior or the emotion. So you'll notice sometimes that your kids act differently in different places, and that's okay. That's normal.
And hunger.
Oh yes, hunger.
Don't forget that we struggle with hunger and our behavior all the time. So
that's a good one. I'll have to add that to the slide. I forgot about that one. So I'm gonna make myself a note. Okay. And so how do we teach all these feelings to our kids? Obviously, number one, model it. If you model those feelings, model that they're normal, they are going to follow suit. Think of all the times that you model a behavior that you don't want your kids to pick up on and they copy you immediately. Or a word, swear word, they copy you immediately. If you model it, they will show you that they can do it. Name your child's feelings. Again, you just talked about that. You know, if you see that, oh, you know, I see that you're looking sad because your friend had to go home, or you look really happy because you got a birthday present. You know, if you name those and also name the feelings of people around them, name feelings for yourself, you know, name feelings of their siblings, those type of things, they will pick up on that. Sing songs. There's lots of great ones. If you're happy and you know it is just an example. You can make up songs. Some people are really great about that, taking other tunes and putting their own words to things. You can go on YouTube and there's tons. There's actually a really great, if you really like Sesame Street, since we're on the Sesame Street theme today, there is an actual If You're Happy and You Know It sung by Elmo and his friends. So it's really cute. So just any type of songs, just do a Google search, a YouTube search. There's tons of feeling songs. Books, reading books about feelings. And I'll hold some of these examples up. So this is a Sesame Street one. We're on this theme today, apparently. This is another good one. And this one, this How I Feel, literally has like one thing per page. So it's very, very simple and it's just labeling the feeling. So that's really a nice little book. This is another thing. This is something that I bought this year to work with the 3 to 5 preschool. It's actually a flip chart. It's called Feelings and Choices. And I got it on Amazon. And what it does is it has, some of them are kind of big words. So here's angry, for example. And we use, some of you are now familiar with the Class Dojo. So the Class Dojo system, in the classrooms that they use, each student is assigned a little monster. And so this kind of fits in with like the dojo because it's monsters. And then on the back of each card, yep, there's options that you can teach them, like what to do, different choices that they can do. So the angry one, you can count to 10, you can run or jump in place. So it not only gives you a way to name the feelings, but it also gives you a way of different things that you can teach them to do. And at first, you have to do those things with them, but then eventually they get the idea and they can, and even something like this, they can go to it, they can flip, find their feeling, and then look at the pictures on the opposite side and say, oh, I'm going to try this.
So my really good friend, her daughter's 4, and she created this little Zen corner for her so that she could take breaks in there. And she put that, the same thing that April just showed, in the corner. And, you know, when she would go in it, we would always talk to her, like, what do you feel? And go through it. Within like 2 months, multiple times, we would walk into her being in her Zen corner with her little leg crossed and her scribbling away at a notebook. And she says, I feel very sad. Do you want to read about it? And then it's just scribbles. Like there was nothing else on it, but she had been taught, if you feel sad, you can write about it. And she did it all on her own when she was feeling sad one day. So that book that to me is like a fantastic thing to teach them.
Yes, I love this one, and you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's lots of different flip charts, but I really liked the monster one because in our preschool classrooms, we use dojo, so it kind of tied in. And then you can get books.
Sorry, what
even
was that called again?
This is called Feelings and Choices.
Thank you.
It's just a children's flip book. So, and then they have older books that you can buy on feelings. This one's one of my favorites that I use at the preschool. It's called The Color Monster. They actually have a book, but this one is my favorite because it's a pop-up.
That's my favorite pop-up page.
Yeah, I know the sad is super cute. So definitely not recommended for kiddos that still tear up books, but you can still get it and read it to them, but I would suggest that the adult be in the control of this book. Whereas like, we know board books you can give them to the kid, but the flip chart, if you go that route, they're a little bit thicker pages. So they can be taught to use that. So those are just some examples. There's tons more out there in the world. I think even, Dr. Seuss has one too. Mm-hmm. It's called My Mini Colored Moods or something like that. So, or My Mini Colored Days, something like that. So there's lots of options for feeling books. And then also for books, it's number 6 where I suggested to discuss
Dave,
how
103 has a cleanup on carpet. Dave, 103 has a carpet cleanup. Thank you.
To discuss how characters on shows or in movies feel, like when you're watching cartoons or watching a movie, discuss that. But you can also, other books that you read, you can discuss expressions on their faces, like, oh, look, that boy is happy. How can you tell he's happy? He has a smile on his face, that type of thing. So, and then
to kind of real quick, to piggyback on that, to go back up to number 2 about naming your child's feelings. A lot of times our kids get really confused when another child acts a way that they don't understand. So a lot of times, like if our children get pushed or another child's a little more like aggressive towards our children, it leaves them very confused because again, they're learning about emotion. So that's another really great time to talk to them and say, it seems like that little boy was feeling angry. And when he got angry, he pushed. Did you like being pushed? They normally say no. And then you can talk about when you feel angry, that's why we don't want to push and we want to talk about it. So they're able to see it right then in the moment. And then they'll start to be able to identify other children's emotions, which we all know in society is a very helpful task to be able to do. Very helpful skill.
Another thing you can do is use a mirror to practice different feeling spaces. You can buy feelings cards with the different feeling spaces on it. You can also go online, you can make them. My project this summer is to make a bunch of feeling spaces out of felt because I got a felt board. So, there's different ways that you can show them what feeling spaces look like. You can do that online, you can print them, all sorts of ways. You can draw them. Kids don't care if you can only draw stick figures. They love it. So, and then the last one, 7, is to play games. There's, hold on a sec. Can you tell her no? Sorry, my daughter's texting me to ask if she can stay after school. But she can't today because she doesn't have a ride. So
keep it updated.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And the last one is to play games. So I don't have any examples on me. There are feelings games you can buy. Pinterest is a great resource. You can make up games. One of the examples I was looking at on Google earlier was take an empty tissue box, paste some feeling faces on the sides of the tissue box, roll it like a dice, and then just model out the feeling that lands face up. So,
and
any other games that you know of?
Yeah. So this game, now I play it with my high schoolers, but it can be played with any age. At 5 Below, there's and I just saw it like a month ago. There's this, it's not a ball because it has but it's not a hexagon because there's so many sides. I have no idea how many sides it is. But you can roll it, and then there's emojis, like what they see in our phones, on every single side. And so if you roll it, then when you pick it up, you can say like angry or sad or happy. And then as the child gets older, you could then say show me what you would do if you were happy. So that game kind of really can evolve with them.
The emojis are actually a great option for feeling faces because they're so recognizable now, and they're on everybody's phones, and our kids see them because they're on everybody's phones. So if you're looking at, you can real world faces are good, but also using the emojis are a good option as well. So those are just some examples. Really anything that goes along with naming feelings. You can even tie it in with a sensory bin. If you're playing in a sensory bin, you can talk about feelings. And, if you put little characters in the bin, this dinosaur is angry or because he can't find any food or whatever, So you can do emotions and label feelings anywhere. All right. Any questions?
Concerns? Did we do so good this time that there's no concerns or questions?
I actually wanted to ask a quick question. So I read a lot about how toddlers, right, can regulate their emotions, and as they're having a tantrum or an explosion of their emotions is not the best time to try to rationalize, even though we still try to explain, right? Like yesterday, she wanted to keep reading before bed. It's like, okay, well, it's bedtime now. And it was just like, and how do you explain? And so I guess, how do you like follow the formula to say, no, this is the boundary and this is why? Like, do you let them scream it out first? Like sometimes I say, I can't hear you. And she's like, what do you mean you can't hear me? Like, I'm so loud. I don't know. Like, do you have an answer?
Definitely. So I'm right now doing this a lot with my toddler. So you can do it a lot of different ways, but yes, rationalizing or negotiating or anything like that in the middle of a tantrum or an explosion is never a good idea because they don't hear you. Of course, if you're out in public and you're like, I'm just going to scoop you off the ground and put you in the car, that's perfectly fine. I do that quite frequently because I'm not going to let her throw a fit right there on the floor. Yeah.
Been a long time, but I've done that.
At home though, when she starts to throw a fit, I'll explain why we're not going to do it. So, we aren't reading any more books because it's time for bed. Starts to throw a fit. And I always will say, I see you're really frustrated. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. And I just let her throw as long of a tantrum as she needs. And it can go on so long, which sometimes helps at night because they sleep longer. At least mine does. But I always wait and then I'll debrief with them once they calm down. You can say like, do you want a hug? But don't discuss emotions until they have re-regulated. And if that means they're going to have a big tantrum on the floor, a lot of times I'll just say like, I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. I'm here when you need me. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And then I'll keep checking in, but I really just let her feel her emotions and express them. And I'm not going to feed into them. And I don't like the, I can't hear you thing, though that is like a good thought. The issue with that is it's kind of like the whole, like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, where it can really stir them on. Where honestly in their little heads, they're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna scream louder so you really can hear me. And we don't want to build pettiness that early. Because someone who's like queen of petty, I think I learned at a far too early age. So just, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. You continue on, they throw their tantrum for however long. And again, big asterisk is if it's out in public, there's no problem in taking them out of there. You don't have to have them throw it, unless if you're fine with it. That's up to you.
Okay, I do. And when I say like, I can't hear you when you shout, and like she'll pause and be like, what? But then you're right, it does happen again. So it probably is.
So it actually,
yeah.
To go back to that when she is more self-regulated and to say like, when you shout at me, My mom ears can't hear that. I can only hear when you say things at a calm level. The only thing about that is we always want to model for our kids. So that means that you would really want to try to make sure that no adult is shouting in the house because, well, if mom ears can hear this shouting, why can't mom ears hear this shouting? Of course, we always make mistakes, but that's one thing that you just want to make sure that you can hold that up on your side.
Well, and you can always say that it is hard to understand her, you know, and phrase it that way. You can say it's hard to understand you when you're, you know, because I've done that when my daughter was little, especially when she cried because she was, you know, in the middle of speech classes and I couldn't understand her. It wasn't a lie, it was the truth. I'm like, when you're crying, I can't understand you. So, you know, I would just help her calm down, and then we would like, okay, repeat yourself, please. But yeah, so that's the perfect way to do it, really, is just let her have those emotions, you know, and then as she grows and she learns other ways to deal with those emotions, you know, as you teach her other ways, more appropriate ways for you that you will like better, she'll lessen those tantrums.
At what age do tantrums really start? Because I think this is more of like she's not very verbal yet. And so I think she struggles with communicating unless she can, you know, she knows a sign for what she's trying to say. So I think that's a lot of the issue we're running into.
Yeah,
But
I think you're correct about that. That is the biggest part of the issue. I mean, tantrums generally start like, well, it depends on the kid, 2-ish, 3-ish. You
Mine
know,
started out
yours
like
started
13
early.
months.
Yeah, it just depends on, a lot of them generally tend to stem around them wanting to be independent and either not knowing how, or, you know, those times when you're trying to rush to get out the door and they want to do it themselves, and you can get some. But then a lot of it is communication, because they don't know. My daughter was a biter until she learned the word mine and learned the word no, and then she stopped biting. So, you know, you will see as your daughter learns, as you've seen, if she has a sign or a word, you know, you don't get it quite as much, but she just doesn't know how to express herself. So, you know, you kind of have to be her voice.
And they can go, honestly, up until around age 5. They always say, like, if the tantrums are still really uncontrollable at age 5, to contact your pediatrician, just so they can see if there's any additional supports. But some kids like start early and end around 3. But if it's an issue with communication, likely that frustration is still going, like April said, going to continue until there's more words and there's more stuff in her toolbox so she can tell you what she's upset about.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah, because
even
she's
teaching her, you know, the sign for help, you know.
Yep. Yeah, so she knows about 10 signs, and
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
we understand 99% of what she says, but
oh, good.
obviously when, you know, it's like she needs to brush her teeth by herself and no one else can, and you know, you want to keep being, yeah. And she's 18 months, so I think she's just struggling to be like, I have all these stuff that I want to express and I don't.
Right. Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
It's at their age, like, because that's right by my daughter's age, or that is my daughter's age. I always forget how old she is. I'm like 1.5. How old is that? So 18 months. This is like a huge independence time for them. And mine also wants to brush her teeth by herself. And I, in the beginning, was like, there's no way, you're not doing it correctly. I really need to brush your teeth. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, well, the toothpaste is getting in her mouth. There's no cavity issues right now. I'm going to let her be independent with this. And ever since then, she continues to get a little bit better. I mean, she's not great, but she continues to get a little bit better with brushing teeth. And so constantly finding at that age what's important for her to grow and gain independence versus, no, this is important. Like any safety issues, of course, you hold down, double down on that. But just, I allow mine to be as independent as possible. And it seems to help with the majority of her temper tantrums.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we go? We will be doing these in the fall, again, next school year. the logistics will be worked out, but we're going to add another social worker into the mix, and we'll have more topics and stuff because we'll be starting earlier in the year. We'll repeat some topics, obviously, but we want to add some more topics. But we thank everybody that was with us on our, pilot virtual parenting program. So
before we end things, I did actually have a question.
Sure.
I have two kids, and one, she's 1.5, and my son, he's 6.5, and he's autistic, and he's mostly nonverbal. And right now we're having a huge problem with teaching him self-regulation, and he's having a lot of meltdowns and outbursts, and he's taking it out on his sister, me, and we kind of just wanted to ask how we can incorporate teaching him self-regulation at home, especially since he's mostly nonverbal.
Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
April's done a lot of work with our ASD kiddos.
A lot of with the and I can actually send some stuff to Dawn specifically for some ASD tips and tricks, but it's you got to kind of think of your son that has ASD as younger as he really is age-wise. And do those things like you would do for a toddler, like more modeling, singing songs, playing games, things like that. And then just sometimes you have to just do what we call hand over hand it.
And I think the biggest thing too is with our ASD kiddos is not only do we have to remember that developmentally they're younger, so we do younger things, but we have to continue to remind ourselves in our head, like developmentally they're younger. So we have to kind of change our expectations on what we're thinking. So if developmentally he's closer to 3, then what would be okay for a 3-year-old? A tantrum on the ground and crying it out would be okay. Hitting is never okay, but talking it through, it's just hard when he's 6 because he's bigger, and so the hitting doesn't feel like a 3-year-old's hit. There are a lot of techniques, but discipline and self-regulation, especially self-regulation with our ASD kiddos, is a very difficult skill for them to learn, and normally it comes later.
Later. And then also another thing you can do along with it is a good routine, because a lot of our kiddos that have ASD, I mean, kiddos all thrive on routine, but a lot of our kiddos that have ASD like really need that structure. And then you'll notice if you have that structure in that routine, that these self-regulation feelings will kind of even out a little bit too. They learn from that routine of what to do next and what to do, when to do it. A lot of our, it's great for even some of our kids that are just speech impaired or things like that, but pictures are also really good.
So they can point at what
they want, giving them, the choices so they can be independent. That all helps teach them self-regulation.
And then, and I know, I'm sure you know, because you've had, he's your son for 6 years. So being a parent, I'm sure you have done so much research.
Totally.
Yes. And the biggest thing with self-regulation is that is exactly what it is. It's like internally, we're making a decision to not act how we want to feel, which is a huge concept. And with our kids with ASD, that's a really difficult concept to grasp, because ASD, a huge part of it is like, I'm going to do what I feel. And it starts and stops there. And so then having to grasp, like, wait, I'm not going to do what I want, what I feel, that's hard. That's a tough concept, especially if just in the brain, it's just not wired to be that way. So it's a lot of work and consistency. But yeah, with April can send over resources to Dawn, and she can pass them along to you. So at least you feel like you have a little bit more in your back pocket to help with.
Okay, I'd really appreciate it. And thank you guys for this presentation. I have found some things very helpful. Thank you.
Good, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Oh, before everybody goes, Dawn reminded me, thank you, Dawn. I am actually doing a small, it's gonna be a shorter group, a small group on Tuesday, June 1st on sleep. And it starts at 1, it's gonna be the same link, and I will put out the reminder when we get close to June 1st. But it'll be the first Tuesday in June at 1 p.m. at this link, and we're gonna do it on sleep.
And I won't be here, unfortunately, but I'll be here in spirit, probably also working with my little one on sleep.
There
So
you
I'll
go.
be reading these PowerPoints.
I'll send
just
you the
like you.
video.
Anything else? Just remember, mamas, you all are so great. Remember to be patient with them, to be kind. And it's easy in this way to empathize with them a little bit more because all of us are, as adults, are constantly working on self-regulation and self-control. So to think like, okay, you know, I'm 31 and I'm still struggling with it. It makes sense that my 3-year-old or my 1.5-year-old is really struggling with it. It's a big concept and it takes time. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
great rest of this beautiful day.